It's not something that comes up at the dinner table every night, and most people would never consider it light conversation. But geopolitics is at the very core of where America will find itself in the next few decades and then well into the 22nd century and beyond. And what we as a nation do at this moment in this arena will forge the manner in which America will succeed politically, economically, and militarily, as long as we understand the nuances. Let's welcome to MidPoint a geopolitical strategist who started his career working for the State Department in Australia, later at the Center for Political and Strategic Studies in Washington, now author of the new book, The Accidental Superpower, The Next Generation of American Preeminence and the Coming Global Disorder. Peter Zeihan joins us today. Peter, thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure to be here.
Peter, as you look through the book, it simply seems as if, look at the geography if you want to know why America is where we're at and why we're going to continue to be the superpower in the world. I don't think people look at geography first. They're always looking to see how many weapons we have and how much oil we have.
Well, we're pretty good on those counts too these days, but when it comes to geography, you're absolutely right. The United States has the single best chunk of land on the planet, and we can move goods around our system at about 1/10 the cost of anybody else, throw in the oceans, and it's the perfect recipe for a global superpower.
Then why is it that many times we hear that America is failing economically, for instance, to China, and they believe that we're failing militarily and getting things done here, and we're failing in trade? Why do we keep hearing that then?
Well, there's a mix of reasons for that, but let's start with the basics. As a people, we're relatively unpredictable. Our entire formative experience was in the pioneer era when we went west, and for the price of about a cheap car today, you could, in 6 months, be exporting grain to the wider world for hard currency. It was the fastest cultural and economic experience in human history. We think that's normal, that everything can, should, will, must, shall get better every single year. And when it doesn't, we overreact. Sputnik's a great example, beeping aluminum grapefruit. As part of a reaction to Sputnik, we rejiggered our entire educational and scientific and industrial base. We coasted on that for 50 years. So every time we get poked, we react with the power of this geography and reshape the world every single time.
So then, with all this that we have, because the book basically says we are a nation of riches, we have everything that we potentially need to basically, and I don't want to overstate this, but go it on our own if we have to, if something happens. So then, how do we screw it up? I mean, because that's always the thing you ask about Americans and human beings. How can we mess this up?
Well, we would have to try a lot harder than we are right now. And we've had some, political leaders for the last 24 years that have been, well, let's just call them a little questionable. And we're fine. The United States has a degree of insulation that no one has. But what most people completely overlook is that the free trade era, this experience in trade that we think of as normal, that the Europeans or the Chinese or the Japanese or whoever else of the day happens it to be, are dominating, we actually put that together. We told everybody after World War II that they didn't need a global navy anymore because we would use our navy to protect their trade with everyone, and they could sell whatever they wanted into our system. Well, 70 years of that allowed us to win the Cold War. We bought ourselves, bribed ourselves into an alliance. But we never bet our economic system on it. Only about 10 to 12% of our GDP is based on trade. That's the lowest in the world. There are landlocked countries in sub-Saharan Africa that trade more and are more dependent on the outside world than we are. And with shale, the energy component of that is being driven down to zero, and most of what's left is with Canada and Mexico. So it's not that the U.S. can go alone. It's that the U.S. already is going alone, and we just haven't figured out politically what that means for the internal part of our system.
Well, I've got about 45 seconds left. I did want to point out that the greatest geopolitical challenge the U.S. faces, and you wrote this, the open, unsecurable nature of the border between U.S. and Mexico, correct?
Yes, but not in the immigration sense of things. What's going on right now is the cartels are doing what any other transport company would do in their place. They're diversifying horizontally into related industries like kidnapping, cargo theft, and marijuana, and vertically into things like coca production in South America and now distribution in the United States. The cartels are the only significant geopolitical threat to the United States in the next 30 years, and they've already moved close to the border, and the type of things that we're doing to secure it are about immigration, not about smuggling. We're looking at the wrong problem.
Learn about things other than just what we see on the surface from time to time. The book is called The Accidental Superpower, The Next Generation of American Preeminence and the Coming Global Disorder. Hopefully one that we will be able to avoid one way or the other. Peter Zeihan, it's a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us, and happy Thanksgiving.
Right back at you.
All right, take care. Next up, the president's temporary amnesty has some unintended consequences for some very smart and necessary people. And later on, in Telling It Like It Is, Rudy Giuliani nails it and doesn't deserve to get hammered for his comments on crime, yet he did. We'll, of course, see if we can remedy that ever so slightly. That and so much more coming up right here on MidPoint, where every day we question everything.